that lets you save.
Who cares?
We know people will sit there and scroll through their newsfeed first thing while they're in bed. They'll sit there and scroll through their newsfeed for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Well, we teach you how to get a workout in 20 minutes.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
Today I want to talk about reliability, and that will be our main topic today. I think that it's almost a foreign concept for reliability, and there's so many benefits to being reliable and showing up for yourself, because when you're reliable, it makes you stand out in a different way. And I think it used to be something different. Reliability used to mean something like you showed up at your job, you kept your job, like you were loyal to your company. Like maybe our grandparents or maybe even our parents, like they would stick with one job for most of their life. And that concept is foreign in today's day and age with how quickly the world changes and how quickly jobs pop up, disappear. But that reliability, it means so much that I want to bring that topic out, because if we could understand that reliability, being a reliable person will help you stand head above shoulders in any situation. So it doesn't matter if you're looking for a job or if you're trying to be there for a friend or family member, or if you say you're going to do something and you do it. I feel like it's become the norm to not show up. And here's the biggest issue is when I say show up, I don't mean like just show up in person. I mean like show up mentally, physically, energized, ready to go, like show up, ready to go, ready to offer your best effort. And I just don't think we see that anymore. We don't see that in many different cases. But when it comes to yourself, and for example, we could take our fitness family, for example, and we say, show up for yourself for the workouts. So we do live workouts every Tuesday and Thursday, and we say, show up for yourself, but also show up for the group, show up for the community, because we have conversations going back and forth and we have people talking or asking questions. It's a whole energy thing. And even if let's say you're not even working out and you show up and people are talking, asking questions, and you're watching a workout video, that changes your mental aspect, changes your mind, it changes your motivation. The more you're around people doing positive things, successful things, the more you have those conversations, the more you see, read, talk, the more you're attracted to those things. So when I say show up, like just for workouts, like in particular, that's just one very small aspect of showing up for yourself. And that may not be for the fitness family in particular. That could be showing up for yourself to work out at home by yourself, maybe, or maybe you go to a gym or you go to a fitness class and you're showing up, but you're also showing up for the community. So there's a lot of different aspects when it comes to showing up for yourself. Again, I have to go back to the problem though, is that reliability, and it begins with yourself, but that reliability really isn't there anymore. Like we don't see that. You don't see those people showing up consistently. And then the problem is that if you're not going to show up for other people, you don't show up for yourself. So you cancel your workouts, or you don't show up. You don't show up for your meal prep or your groceries, and you just kind of wander around and go through the motions. And we don't have any real clear, not goal. I don't like goals because other people don't like goals, but there's no clear path. You don't have your sights set on anything. You're just kind of wandering around. And what was that quote? It was an Alice in Wonderland quote, and it was something along the lines of, Alice says, where is the right path? And the cat says, well, where do you want to go? And she says, well, I don't know. I just want to find the path. And then the cat says, well, I guess it doesn't matter which path you take now, does it? So a lot of people don't know where they're going. Like, you have to decide where it is, what you want. And then you come up with a calculated plan. You break that down and you usually reverse engineer it. And then you find a way to make that happen. But the problem is not knowing the direction you want to go, but then continually showing up for yourself, showing up for others to make that happen. It's the concept of showing up for yourself. I don't feel it's that powerful because we don't put ourselves first. We actually put ourselves last, especially women. And as natural caregivers, you always think about other people. We don't really think about ourselves first. We think about our spouse and our children or our grandchildren. We think about our friends and our coworkers. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that if you continually put yourself to the bottom of the list, we're not going to be able to find the results we're looking for ourselves. So you can say, well, I've never been able to feel energized. Like, my digestion is out of whack. So you say, well, did you have your meal? Like, no, I was busy making a meal for everyone else and didn't get a chance to make my own. That's a good one. Or did you get your workout in? No, the kids got up late. I was rushing them around, got them up early. And then by the time I got them out the door, I had to go to work myself. So I missed my workout. But see, I'm not saying that there's a problem with that in particular. I'm saying the problem is that when people don't see the results they're looking for, we have to dig deep and be like, why aren't we seeing the results? So instead of getting up a little bit earlier and getting your workout in before all the chaos happens, as soon as you wake up in the morning, that didn't happen. So it would start with bedtime. Actually, it would start with, I got to get myself ready for bed, get my morning set up. Like, breakfast is already set up in the morning. Bags are packed. Fitness clothes are ready to go, whatever it is. Even maybe the kids' lunches are packed. I know it makes it difficult if it was a crazy day and you didn't get a chance to do all these things. But that evening setup for the morning is the prep that you need to set your day up for success. So then everything is all ready to go. So then you go to bed a little bit earlier. You wake up earlier, you get your workout in, and your breakfast is already prepared. So you can already boost your metabolism and have some food first thing in the morning. The kids' lunches are already packed. They're ready to go. So it's all about prep. But we also have to look at if we're showing up for ourselves. Did you show up for yourself that night before in prep? Did you show up for yourself when you told your neighbors that, hey, I'm not coming over for that extra drink? I got to get myself prepared. So showing up for yourself is going to help you show up for others in the future. Just think about, I like the glass, like the glass half full analogy. But if you look at a glass, for example, like, you could do the things that fill your cup up. So if you do your workouts and you do your meal prep and you do your yoga, your meditation, your whatever it is, mental, physical, your glass is full. But the more things that you do for other people, the lower your glass becomes. And the problem is, by never doing anything for yourself, for your own glass, it becomes empty. And when you have an empty glass, you have nothing to give. So, but that all circles back around showing up, being consistent, being reliable. And it's not just reliable when I'm talking about being reliable for other people or for yourself. If you're not reliable to other people, you're not going to be reliable to yourself either. So I just think it's so powerful when it comes to being reliable, showing up for yourself, showing up for others. Of course, there's two sides of the coin. When you say you're going to show up, when you say you're going to be somewhere, you be there. And I think there's different types of people. Like, there's one type of people that rarely shows up and they don't think anything of it because that's who they are. Like, I don't even know what they think. Like, I'm one of those people that say, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. But then you have the other type of people that are like, and I honestly don't know what they think. I don't know what they think when it's like, yeah, I'll be there. And then they either don't show up at all and don't say anything, or they don't call or message or email and say, hey, I'm not going to be there. There was a 2-3 year stretch where I was doing 3 shows a week and I wasn't putting them on radio. I was just putting them out as a podcast. So consider that for 10 years, every single week. And if I had a person that canceled, 9 times out of 10, they'd cancel again. And if they canceled again, they would not show up for the 3rd time. Isn't that crazy? But that's the type of people. So now this sounds harsh, but now if I have someone cancel, I don't rebook them. And I know things happen. And if they're like, hey, if they give me like an explanation, like, hey, look, I'm really sorry. This is what happened. But most people, they just don't care. They're like, hey, so the publicist might say so-and-so had to cancel. Or that person sends me a one-liner. They may apologize. They may not. Hey, got to cancel. Or, hey, can't make it today. Can we reschedule? And I say, well, message me in 6 months or message me in 3 months and we'll try to figure something out. And they don't, because they're those people that don't show up. They're not reliable. And I'm not saying things don't happen in life. I'm not saying that, like, if you're the type of people that can't cancels once, you're going to cancel all the time. But I'm saying, at least in the radio industry, in the interview industry, that's how it works every time. And it's challenging because you want to give people a chance and you want to give people a break. But I really feel like how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you do one thing, like if you're the type of person that's going to show up once in a while when you're supposed to be there consistently, how can you be reliable for other things? You know, like I've had, like, sometimes people are like, hey, I want to do this work with you. And then they're like, let's do this, this, and this. I'm like, all right, well, let's just start off with one thing first, because that's how I feel. How you're going to do this one thing is how you're going to do everything. And if that doesn't work out so smoothly in the first little bit, I could tell, like, right away, if someone's going to show up late. They don't show up late once in a while. They show up late all the time. If their work is like pretty good one time and then it's mediocre the next time, then that's how they are. Like, like how you do one thing is how you do. That they're probably not going to do a great job all the time. So I think it's important to pay attention to these things in relationships, and how your reliability is, how other people in your life. Because if you can't depend on someone, that's the essence of being in any type of relationship, like whatever relationship it is. Doesn't matter. And I'm talking about any type of relationship, saying hi on the street. Like, it doesn't matter how minimal an intimate relationship, whatever it is. But if you can't rely on someone, if you never know what they say is going to happen, what do you have? Like, I feel like you have nothing. You do have to find what's important to you, without question. Like, you have to find out what's important to you, and then you commit to that importance. Like, you commit to yourself and you commit to the other people in your life. And that's why it's like time is so important. That's why when I say, it's when you guys show up to these lives, or when we have customers that go out of their way for us, there's nothing more valuable than your time. You can't trade it. You can't make more of it. You can never get it back. Like, time is the most valuable commodity, if you will, that we will ever have. So we're always grateful when people come into our lives, but you have to be so disciplined with your time. And I feel like I've been doing a better job of that, because sometimes you get like, oh, I'll get to that later, or it really bothers me when I have a list of things I know I need to do but don't do them. So I try to do them right away. Like, I try to do things like, I gotta get that done. I do it. And I know that becomes a list, but we have to be very almost analytic with our time, and then we have to figure out, like, that's why I said what it is that you want, like what it is that you want, and you dedicate your time for that, and you show up for the time for. And I really think it's easier to show up to the things that don't really matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's easy to show up and do the simple things, those probably aren't the most important things. You show up to do the more challenging things. And I don't mean more challenging. I mean, like, maybe you show up to your spouse's, like, maybe you really need to show up to your spouse's dinner with their staff. Maybe that's important to your spouse, which means it's important to you. So you show up for them, but then maybe you go get a nice dress or a suit, and then you have to book the night off, and maybe you have to find someone to watch the kids. Whatever it is, I feel like that's more important than sitting there. Most of us sit there and scroll through our news feed. Like, how many hours a day do we scroll through our news feed? Like, it is madness how often we scroll through our news. And we all do it. That's become our life. It's become normal. And it doesn't matter what age. I see the youngest kids with little phones scrolling, doing their little videos. And then you see grandparents now that are doing the same thing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that if you're saying like, oh, I don't have time, like, we know people will sit there and scroll through their newsfeed first thing while they're in bed. They'll sit there and scroll through their newsfeed for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Well, we teach you how to get a workout in 20 minutes. So then you have those individuals that I would say don't show up for themselves and don't show up for a group or for a community. And they say they don't have time. Meanwhile, your time is dedicated to flipping through a news feed for 20 minutes in the morning. So I think we have to be real with ourselves and understand that there is a way if we are resourceful and will find different ways to make these things happen. The problem is that we say one thing and we do another thing. Like, it happens all the time. We say, "Oh, I wish I was." How many people say wish I was fit and healthy? And then how many people actually do the work to make it happen? There's a huge gap there. So our job is to close that gap. If we could find more ways and more reasons to get people to take action towards the goals that they want. But people can find excuses for anything. Absolutely anything. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, we could justify anything. We could find excuses for everything. But then I talked about last week, like, that's how our mind works. That's how our brain, and we have to recondition ourselves. Like, those are the different types of people. And don't get me wrong, like, I believe you can change. Like, you can go from a person that is kind of flighty, shows up sometimes and doesn't, to someone that shows up all the time. I think you can change that. And I also think you could be a person that, like, sometimes life happens, and that happens to all of us. Like, sometimes life happens and you aren't able to get to your appointment, or you have to cancel. Like, those things happen without question. I just feel like it's too easy. Like, it becomes a pattern, and it becomes a habit, and it's too easy to be like, "Oh, sorry, didn't happen." Like, you know what? For me, I really dislike canceling. I do everything possible to not cancel once I set an appointment. And I really don't like setting appointments anymore, because the thought or fear of having to cancel, like, what if something comes up? Which is funny, because I've been doing interviews, but I really dislike setting appointments now, because we're really busy with work, and, like, so many things come up in a day, and I'm like, I don't want to cancel. But once I set that in my calendar, I try to get that set in stone. Like, that's where I'm going to be without question. And I'm pretty good at being there. I'm pretty good at making that happen. I can probably count on two hands how many times I've canceled in the last 10 years. But it gives me a little bit of stress, because I'm like, oh, when I book that in, then I know, like, that's where I got to be. And I suppose that should be relieving to some people. But yeah, that's all I'm saying, is that it could be insulting to some people, being like, but I mean, it's the truth. So the truth shouldn't insult, like, the truth shouldn't insult people. And it's always mind-boggling to me when you tell someone, like, factual information and they're angry about it. Like, it's not my facts. Or like science, like, we have a lot of science and research stuff going on now. And if you repeat science that people don't want to hear, they get so angry. You know, why? I'm like, what are you angry at me for? I'm just repeating, or I'm just showing you what the science says. It's crazy to me. And I'm not gonna comment on the whole kids thing. Like, just try not to let those kids be a continual crutch for you why you're not showing up. But don't get me wrong. Like, there's lots of things that go into being a parent. Probably the hardest job ever. Them always evolving, always changing, being responsible for a little human being. That's profound. Like, that's amazing. Like, parents do such an amazing job on a regular basis. Just make sure that isn't used as a crutch. Like, oh, my kid, I have to do this with my kids. And then you become that person that never shows up. If you're always like, oh, my kids are always causing me to change my schedule. Okay, I mean, that's fine. But also understand that there are people that have kids and never miss schedules, right? But the thing is, like, when you share information like this, like, it's really hard for people to not take it personally, and then to take it out of context. So I'm talking about in day-to-day life, and you're showing up for yourself when it comes to working out. And we're a health and fitness business. We do nutrition and workouts full time. So that's the angle I want to cover. But it could be anything. It could be business. Like, if you always say you're going to, like, if you say you're going to meet a deadline and you never do, well, then you become an unreliable person. And then people stop coming to you. Like, people stop coming to you because they know that you're not really going to be that person. And I do that myself. Like, I could use some help from some individual that I know they could help. But I also know that they're very unreliable and probably aren't going to show up when they say they will. So I just think it's such a hard world to be in if no one can rely on you. I don't know how we live. Like, it's really difficult to live that life of kind of showing up or not showing up, or being there and not being there. But people get by like that all the time. So maybe it's not such a big issue. I don't know. Those people that are reliable, they'll be accountable to themselves. Like, they'll be accountable to the situation. And I think it's pretty difficult to work with individuals that won't take accountability and aren't reliable. And that's all walks of life. That's, like I said, like that's, and it could be in any type of relationship. It doesn't have to be business. Could imagine having a spouse that's like, hey, I'll be there for dinner. So you make dinner and they don't show up. So then the next night you make dinner and they don't show up. Like, how do you function like that? I don't know. But, and then taking accountability for maybe not showing up or not being consistent, that's another tough one. Oh, it wasn't my fault. It was someone else's fault because of this. You have to take accountability for your actions or inactions. And I feel like we would have a stronger world. We'd have stronger communities. We'd have stronger relationships if we're like, hey, look, my apologies. You know what? The best thing that you could do is you could send a message if you're running late or if you're not going to show up. Probably running late more than not showing up. But if you're running late, you say, hey, I'm running a few minutes behind. My apologies. I'll be there. Just so the person isn't sitting there waiting for you. It's so easy just to put it on someone else's shoulders. Like, it's never your fault. But I think those go hand in hand. Those individuals that don't show up on a regular basis, it's easy for them. They don't take accountability. So it's always someone else's fault, which is why they always don't show up, or always flighty, or what's another word for flaky, or they show up sometimes they don't. But that's a mindset. That's a mindset of like, I'm not going to show up because it could be someone else's fault. Like, some people say they're going to do something and they don't know that they're going to do it. Like, they don't have any plans to follow through. Like, maybe I'll do that. Right. When they say they'll do something, they're not fully committed. And of course, right now I'm talking about people that actually maybe show up for an appointment or show up for a date. And it doesn't have to be a intimate date. It could be a golf date or a hair date. I don't know what ladies do. But that's the mindset of like, it's not my fault and it's going to be someone else's fault. So if I don't show up, no big deal. It's not my fault anyway. It's someone else's fault. So that needs to be changed. Need to change our mindset of taking accountability for yourself, for your own actions or for your own inactions, and then committing to doing what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you show up for yourself and you get your workouts in. If you say you're going to meal prep every Sunday, then don't let anything else get in the way. Oh, I had this come up, or actually this came up, or we're going away that weekend, or it's camping season. Like, we could think of any single excuse that we want to, if we want to. So all you're saying is that you don't really want to get that done and you don't really want to accomplish that goal. That's what you're saying is, and some people will say, hey, I can't do that because this, and this. And I'm like, that's fine. Then you can't achieve the goal you want. I'm not deciding that for you. You're deciding that for yourself through inaction or finding more excuses than solutions. So, but it's hard. It's the hard truth that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to find reasons. Like, we don't really want to change, but I'm okay with having the conversation around it. Like, it's not personal. I don't have any personal issues. I think it'd be probably a mistake to, anytime I had an issue, to talk about it, because then people would be like, oh, they're talking about me. Like, I don't have that issue right now. I mean, sometimes those things come up in life, but it's never one person or it's never one situation where I'm like, hey, let me talk about this. I usually try to talk about something at least weeks or months, if not years later, because it's not about one individual. It's about how we are as a whole. Like, we all know people that sometimes show up and sometimes don't when they say they are. Like, we all know those people that are unreliable. Like, we have them in our life continually. I just think it's nice to know, like, have the conversation about, hey, we can change. Like, you can make the changes in your life, and you can be one of those people that are reliable and show up for yourself, and you show up for other people. You can become that person if you're not. And if this show can reinforce you being that person if you're already there or already mostly there. But I mean, we could always like, oh, I'm too busy. Got so many things going on. we could all be in that boat, and we get super busy sometimes too. But I think being reliable is special. You have to be reliable for yourself as well. If you say you're going to do something for yourself, you have to do something for yourself. If you're reliable for other people, be reliable for yourself as well, because that will make a huge difference in your overall lifestyle as well. Once you start showing up for yourself, it becomes easier to show up for other people. Just think about how good you feel. Like if you feel really good after prepping on Sunday, your whole week is set up for success. You feel good, you're energized, you're in a happy mood. Monday morning comes, you have your workout scheduled. You know what your workout you're going to do. You get 20-minute workout in, get a nice little glow, nice little sweat on. You're energized, you're happy, you're feeling good. So then when one of your kids comes into the room, or one of your spouses, one of your spouses comes into the room, and then you're not short with them. They ask you a question and you're not offended by it, so you don't snap back. You're just happy. Like, hey, how you doing? I made you lunch last night. It's ready to go. And you know what? Dinner's ready to go too. So as soon as you get home from work, dinner's coming. Or I put dinner aside. As soon as you get home from work, you start cooking dinner. When I get back, there's a lot of different things. But it is a work in progress. And I feel like there's a lot of guilt and maybe even resentment for yourself when you're like, oh, I'm not perfect, or I'm always putting myself last. So that's why I'm not able to do these things. But it's with everything. Like if you've ever done, like prayer might be different, but I go through it with meditation. Like I meditate every day, and then I slowly stop, and then I have to get back on the train. And then some people, same thing with workouts. We know a lot of people are like consistent with workouts, especially in the Fit Fam. We see them live Tuesday, Thursday for a couple weeks, or not a couple months, and then they start slipping away. And then we're like, hey, come on, let's get going. Let's do this challenge, and then we can get people back in. But it's always a work in progress. Otherwise, I don't know, like who's perfect? If it's not a work in progress, then we're perfect. And like I feel like when we one of our catchphrases is choose better. Like choose better, choose a better answer. In this case, choose more reliability, choose accountability, but be accountable to yourself as well. Be accountable to yourself that I said I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to make that happen. Otherwise, you don't want to be that unreliable person to yourself. Like if you don't want to be it to other people, then you don't want it to be yourself either, because then you deal with that constant struggle of like, oh, I want to start a fitness program, but I can never get through it. Or we get the diet one. I really want to start that diet, but and we're like, whoa, it's not a diet. This is lifestyle. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. So be gentle with yourself, but be firm. Because if you're too gentle, be gentle with your guilt, I suppose, because we don't want to be the people that's on the flip side, like going, it's always excuses or always issues, and never, it never follows through even for yourself, because there's always a problem. There's always a reason why you can't do it, because we have to come up with better solutions instead of better excuses. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and adios.
True Form Life.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is trueformlife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at trueformlife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with Trueform Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.